Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Your magical kiss take me just so far. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Don't leave me like this, dangling from a star. Set me all aflame and it's so pleasing. It sure would be a shame if you were only teasing. So my love, before I go, turn the lights way down low and talk to me. Talk to me, talk to me. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Don McKeag Show. Once again, I think it's show 32, correct, Kenny Bukes?
That's correct.
Ken Bukes is in the back there. We are a call-in show. However, we don't seem to have too many calls. Now, I'm looking away here up, Kenny. Are we adjusted?
At number 2, Don, right here.
That's correct.
One here.
But I look like I'm looking away from
We'll fix
everything.
We'll fix it.
Which may be a good thing. Anyway, it is the Don McKeag Show, as you know. We are on Thursday nights from 6 to 7. And I also am on every Saturday morning from 11 to 1 on WXTK. The same conservative format as Howie Carr, Rush Limbaugh, and others. Laura Ingraham, for some reason, they're not carrying her anymore. And why do I look like I'm looking over to the left, Kenny? That's what I don't understand. I am looking into the light, and it's still making me, I'm still looking askance. Well, anyway, we got some fun here tonight. You know, we talk about the woes and some of the things in the world that are just, I think, upside down for people my age. When you get 70 and grandkids and kids and you just look back. I guess our parents did the same. But I've been reading a lot. And this last winter, of course, a lot of us read a lot more. That was it. We, between shoveling and staying home, try to stay warm, I did a lot of reading, which I like to do anyway. And I'm in the process of writing a book, which I will let you know about. It's a memoir, but it's also about growing up around the 50s and 60s and all that has transpired in the last 50 years. It's been a very difficult project. And those that have written know, but if you're talking about yourself, it is a whole new dimension where you have people that are, you know, family members and other things that are just kind of fun but painful too. So that being said, in reading, I've always liked history. I taught high school in Rockland. I taught junior high school and coached in Hingham also. I'm from Weymouth, those that watch regularly. And even though I taught English Lit, but I've always been very interested in history. And I'm reading Caesar now by Colleen McCulloch, who is best known for The Thornbirds, where they did a nice serial TV show. I thought Rachel Ward was beautiful, but anyway. Kenny, this is still not right. I am looking off in the distance instead of straight on. I don't know why, but at least that's what that screen.
You're You're not supposed to look at that.
Oh, all right. So as long as I know, we're doing our best. Excuse me. So what I've been reading in Caesar is, in Rome at the time, 49 BC or thereabouts. Imagine, almost 2,100 years ago. Well, no, 2,500 or better. And we're in the same plight. But before I go anywhere, I forgot to bring the list of the names, but I wanted to congratulate my good friend and those that have watched, and we have, as you know, Kenny, we have regular watchers. We hear from them. And I had my good friend and fellow I taught and coached with, Carl Frymouth, was inducted into the Coaching Hall of Fame, the Plymouth Coaching Hall of Fame, which was wonderful. Congratulations to him. He was also inducted a few years before as a player, and he's in the Mass Football Coaches Hall of Fame, I believe, too. But I want to congratulate, there were 11 athletes, and I was hustling out the door, and I left the program, which is not pleasing me because I wanted to acknowledge all of the fine athletes, the young men and women who have represented Plymouth. But Carl, in his speech, which he did a wonderful job, he had a very interesting fact. And you know, what you hear about Plymouth, I don't know, some towns vary, yes, but most towns of Plymouth size, Weymouth, others, they're pretty much the same. They're pretty well made up of the same New England mentality and the mixed nationalities, because we are, close to Boston. We had a lot of immigrants over the, last 100+ years. But he talked about there being football has been played in Plymouth since 1889, I believe. And he said over 600,000 young men and women have played sports for the town of Plymouth in that time. Imagine how tremendous that is from the standpoint of young people. I played sports and all through school and loved it. And, of course, you make lifetime friends. And then some are lucky enough to go off to college and then maybe even further playing sports. But there's nothing like that feeling of being a member of a team. It's the same in an orchestra. That's why always those young people that would try out for a sport and they didn't have athletic ability, I would always try to direct them into the arts, not only band, but drama, because there's just nothing quite like being a member of a group all working toward the same goal, which might be a play. In athletics, it's a game, it's a season. But in music, it's a piece, whether it be an orchestra or a small band or a rock group. It might only be 3 or 4 pieces, but they're all integrating and working together. And what's so marvelous about it, why it's so important to the caliber and to the core values of this country, is that's where racism and other human failings that I always talk about on this show, about those 7 deadly sins, and envy and greed and lust and all of these things that, in one way or another, we're all capable of. Fortunately, many in the population don't. But to be a member of a team, of a band, of a cast, be a cheerleader, a group of cheerleaders, there's just nothing like it. And it's a wonderful feel. I remember as a pitcher, I remember the feeling I got early on, standing on a mound and looking around and seeing 8 other players that were there backing me up, and then rooting for each other when they get up to the plate. Same thing in football. in basketball, where they all are pulling toward the same goal. And yes, there's fights amongst teammates and there's personality differences, but this is what concerns me most about what's happening to this country, because we've so divided politically now over issues that a lot of our younger people are being cheated out of that. And that's why I admire the coaches and the teachers, but classes aren't the same. Being a member in a class is really not the same as a member of a team or, as I mentioned, a band. So anyway, that's one of the things I wanted to mention. Again, congratulations to my dear friend Carl and to all the athletes, but also to all the members of the team. Carl also did a very fine job talking about the participants, as did these very humble young recipients of this award, and they credited their team as well. Every one of us should. You know, I was in the restaurant business, and you can't do well in a business without a solid cast, a solid group of people who work with you and for you. And it's again, sometimes not stressed enough. The other thing, I just am really tired of, excuse me, when I do this show, I do it, I believe, right, Kenny, for the right reason. It's mostly to inform and to kind of light a fire under people. I don't say I'm right about everything, but I do say one thing, that my opinions, almost without exception, are based on actual experience in what I'm talking about. This nonsense of everyone's opinion, excuse me, is equal. It's just not so. It's another bunch of baloney. You can have an opinion, yes, but you'd like to think that every opinion should be based on what that person perceives as truth. Now, when it's an argument about religion, about existence of God, or other things, that's a different matter, because we can have the strongest belief we want in God and a hereafter. We don't have any proof of that. So another person's view of that is totally legitimate in their mind. But when we're talking about scientific things, and when we're talking about human behaviors and what results, if you do this, this happens, that's a different matter. And that's why we keep figures. That's why we all do, liberal or conservative. And if you choose not to look and heed the figures, like they say, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. We are doomed to repeat it, because right now things are out of control. And they're out of control because there is infighting and there is a press which has an objective, and that objective is not for the truth. That objective is to control the thoughts of this country. And for that, I am very disturbed, and that's why we do this show. But what I thought about, Kenny, after you and I talked earlier today, before I came in, I went up to my mother was born in May, and she passed away at 93. And we were from Weymouth, and a lot of my relatives are all buried up in Weymouth, North Weymouth, Old North Cemetery. That was donated to the town by Thomas Watson, the co-inventor of the telephone. I wonder Kenny, what do you suppose Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas Watson would think of cell phones, or any of the people of that time? They would not believe it, would they?
Not only that, what would they think of a member of your family being buried in their cemetery, where you are so outspoken about it?
Well, I think they'd be happy with it. Mr. Watson he also, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I think I've mentioned it, so forgive me, those that listen to my radio, Sometimes I'll repeat it, but it's over a course of time. And I don't apologize for it because there are many who never heard it in the first place. But Thomas Watson also bought the land in Braintree and built the Four River Shipyard, which was a tremendous endeavor and, of course, provided a huge economy for the South Shore, Plymouth included. Many Plymouth men. I worked there as a young man, 18, 19 years old, at chipper and caulker, a horrible job, which my father wanted to make sure I had so that I would go back to school. I was not going to go to college because of a couple of things. But anyway, but I just wanted to mention that what has happened to me when I went up to the cemetery, of course, I stopped at nurseries. And I was just over at Rockland Trust in Carver. And I'm a little hoarse now because I've been out gardening, Kenny. I told you. I am out mulching and planting plants around my place in South Carver. And I look around at the trees in bloom. You know, those beautiful cherry trees. And it's just so beautiful. And in Rockland Trust, I stopped there to get some money. And they have, I think it's Crystal Lake or Crystal something. It's a florist, a nursery, and they have put in a display. And they have all the multiple types of blooms. And I stood there waiting a little bit in line, and I just looked at the magnificence of the colors and the shapes and just the beauty. And the beauty around us now, and of course spring is a rebirth. And after this horrible winter, wouldn't it be nice if the meteor, and if it's not going to happen, but all I could think of is, wouldn't it be nice to start fresh the way nature does? You know, nature's wonderful. The colors of everything, you know, just the sunsets. Now I get beautiful sunsets over Sampson's Pond. They're magnificent, and they go right, and I get tremendous starry nights where you can see the Big Dipper time after time. Beautiful moon. When that harvest moon was there in this fall. And I notice these things, and it gives me some kind of spiritual solace for all of the other stuff that I keep having to rant about. I don't enjoy it, but what I don't enjoy more are wonderful, good people who are letting this country get away from them, who aren't concerned, who just... They've lost sight of what we, Kenny, our age group, you know, post-World War II, I believe, were the greatest times in this country until the 60s. And that's, of course, when, you know, the World War II babies, of which I was one, you know, that's when they got to be in their 20s. And that's when we had the pot generation and the free love and all of this. And I believe that was a beginning when it wasn't checked and it wasn't dealt with. And a lot of that pot crew now has their kids, and that's just my opinion. Now, that's my opinion. You can have yours because that's not fact. It just happens to be my opinion. So I always call myself on that. I'm not saying I'm right. But if you look at your pet, I had a cat that just died a little while ago, and he was a tiger cat. And I called him Striper, with the stripes. And if you look at your dog or cat, look at your bird feeder, and look at the intricate colors. I had a couple of cardinals there the other day. Oh, and you know what? You know, my favorite bird is, one of my favorites is the red-winged blackbird. They come in, they look like a jet plane, you know, with the red on each. Well, forget, this isn't meant to be a religious thing, but to think that there isn't some superior entity that has brought us all of these things, never mind brought us into the world, but has brought us all this magnificence. And they live and they die. They are beautiful, and then in the fall, They lose their foliage or they die just like plants. But in the meantime, they give such joy to those who take the time to appreciate it. And I don't know if this is making any sense, but
Well, you're talking to a bird.
you're a bird. See, I am too. I love the. But anyway, and there's chickadees, and you see the intricate colors. And I don't know how anyone can think that that's just kind of by accident. You know, there's horrible things out there too. But one of the big injustices in the human being is that we have young people, we have babies, but then young people who are beautiful girls turn into real beauties. They become movie stars and actresses and handsome young men. And as I learned teaching, then you have those who aren't that fortunate. It's a luck of the draw, and it's sad sometimes to see that looks matter so much that sometimes that affects them. And it is hard for a lot of us to understand a God that has little kids come into this world deformed or blind or mentally deranged. Those are hard things that we have to accept because they are what they are. But what's nice is that we have so many people in this world who give of themselves to care for those people. We forget about that too. Too often we forget the wonderful people, millions of wonderful people around us who are doing, and like they say, practice random acts of kindness. I don't see, by the way, that's a question. I used to see that bumper sticker quite often. I haven't seen it for a long time.
Well, you can have it reprinted.
I know.
And while you're taking a sip of water, if I can just take you back to the birds for a second. I know you're doing a lot of work.
Some think I'm for the birds, so go ahead.
Okay. It's okay. We know this much, Donnie. They are watching. They may not call. They are watching.
I know. Well, we're doing our part. That's
yes.
what you and I are doing our part.
I don't want to steal your thunder here.
You're not.
If I can, one of these days, with all the flowers that you have planted in your yard,
yes.
with all of the gardening that you're doing to grow vegetables, I want to challenge you to do one thing for me. After you have your dinner and you go and you sit in your backyard around 6 o'clock.
With my cigar?
With your cigar. And if you don't have one, I'll get one for you.
Yes, I have one ready and waiting.
Sit near your flowers and smoke your cigar. You will see one of the most beautiful birds in hummingbirds. Those are gorgeous birds.
Well, I usually put out those little hummingbird feeders, with the what is it's like a honey. It's a cherry juice.
Actually, it looks like cherry
juice. Yeah,
it
it does.
Coloring in it.
Yeah.
Karen makes it from sugar and water.
Yeah.
But
I haven't had great luck though seeing the birds.
Donnie, we had last year. We had six couples.
Excuse
six
me.
Pairs, and each pair had what they call juveniles. They gave birth to them. We've already the males have already come in.
Now, what colors were they, Kenny?
Oh, Donnie, the ruby throats. I'll probably get killed for this. The ruby throats are the males.
Yes.
And the ones with what I call a beige throat, or they have the green on the back, and they have a little bit of blue up in the head, but they don't have the red in the throat.
Yep. Those
are the females. The males show up a week before the females do. We got 2 of each. We're off and running for this season.
Now, why did you say you're probably going to kill? Because you're playing into something we're going to have some real fun with later.
Well, I probably have.
That the male species, often in nature, is the much more attractive one.
Yes,
that's correct.
That's true in ducks too.
That's true. Yes. Well, it is. Look at the lion, as opposed to the lioness.
Yeah, I want to know.
Horses stay the same.
Yes.
But anyway, go ahead. Continue. So now tell me about the hummingbirds. Other than feeders, do you have plants that draw them too? Because they love those blossoms.
If you have a fluted plant And
Yes.
actually, even if you
Color, I guess, draws them.
color does, but generally it's red color that'll draw them. But we have honeysuckle in the yard,
Yes.
and they go to the honeysuckle, and they'll pollinate it or drink from it, and they'll take the pollen and go with it. But the thing that I was trying to draw out of all of this is that the hummingbirds, if they're in your yard and they're hitting on your flowers or drinking your nectar, they will cause new growth next year.
Oh, yes.
We have found impatiens growing in places where Karen never planted them.
Well, they do like the birds and the bees are what brings growth and pollinates, of course, a lot of
We love
plants.
sitting in the yard and birds. We have birds all over the place.
Well, if you look though at the birds and you look at the colors now, I just speaking of that, we're going to be all over the place tonight, folks. Sit back, have some coffee, stay with us.
Well, they can call
We're going to
and
try.
check
You
us
can
out.
call, but I mean, we're not going to rant and rave. But I've got a funny thing about the male species, and I always seem to give the women a little hard time, and I've got some fun that I think you'll like. But anyway, look at they had on one of my all-time favorite shows is the Antique Roadshow.
I love that show too.
And this woman brought in a book of Audubon birds, one of the old albums. How much do you think that album was worth?
If it was an old
It's a
one,
big and big size. They were done in sequence, and it was the real deal.
I would
take
say
it.
probably about 10 grand.
Oh, much more.
Really?
I think it was $200,000 or $250 because it was signed in the front, and I don't know how few there are.
Was it the plates?
No, it was the prints.
It was the actual prints?
Yep.
Wow. There are some.
But my point is, those paintings of his are just magnificent. I mean, we all have seen prints. People hang them.
Right.
I had some at my inn, but I mean the colors. Like I remember there was a Baltimore Oriole. There's another pretty bird.
They come back every year.
Yeah, they say you hang oranges out.
You slice an orange and hang it by your hummingbird
Yep.
feeder, and they'll come back every year too.
Well, anyway.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, so in finishing, I made some notes here, and I was just talking about the different birds, but also, like, look at the tiger, and look at the snowy leopard, and look at the leopard. And, just to mention, look at the ocelot, the colors. They're just unbelievably beautiful creatures. And I always, when I look, I love horse. Oh, by the way, did you watch the Preakness? The horse? Oh.
No, I didn't.
Well, American Pharoah is the real deal, and because he won in heavy rain. And it started pouring 5 minutes before, and it was mud, and he ran going away. So I think he may be the real Triple Crown winner. They've been looking for one since Secretariat. But anyway, I always love the line that a horse is such a beautiful creature. I just love them. I love their face, their eyes. But do you remember that old joke about, you know what a camel is?
Here we go.
A camel is a horse designed by a panel of expert animal lovers. In other words, that's what they'd come up with if they were designing a horse. And that's a whole idea of committees. What they come up with half the time is one real screwed up job. But anyway, so what I'll get to here, let me make sure I've got a couple of things, but this one, Kenny, you're gonna get a kick out of. These, I'm going to do this on the radio Saturday too. So, but this is why, my concern about Hillary Clinton being president, and I just don't understand it, but I do understand it. And one of my concerns, of course, is the female vote, that women are going to vote for her. They wouldn't care if she was Mata Hari. They wouldn't care if she killed Bill. She'd probably get more votes if she shot Bill. It's pathetic, and it's just as bad when the black population votes for Obama no matter what he does, and I don't care whether anybody likes that or not. It is not good for the country, and that's what a vote is supposed to be, I believe, is to do the best you can in choosing your leader, because that leader makes decisions that affect all of us. And you women have to remember they affect your sons and daughters if they're going into the service. Are they going to have a war? Are they going to be taken care of properly? Are we going to have germs coming into this country that haven't? All of these things. Are they going to have a job? What kind of a life are they going to have? That's what your leader determines. And today, Kenny, don't you agree? There's not enough concern for that. People they're just apathetic because they think anybody, and then you get people saying, well, they're all bad, and unfortunately, we haven't had a great track record. But
well, I think that an interesting observation that has been generated in my household is that you notice the way the advertising is going right now.
Yep.
You have either a group of women that are for Elizabeth Warren or a group of women that are for Hillary Clinton.
Because they want a woman no matter what.
No matter what, exactly.
And that's the dangerous
It's
part.
either or,
Yep.
so what they're doing
Yep.
is...
And that's what the press wants,
they're
too.
taking Howie's granny,
Yep.
Howie calls her granny,
Mhm.
and they're putting her up against Hillary, so they're figuring that the ones that don't like granny are going to like Hillary, so they got one of their two choices in office. That's
Well,
the way.
I do know, though, that there are more women than I, would have predicted. There are an awful lot of women that don't like Hillary and aren't going to vote for her. Now, if they had the alternative of Granny Warren, which is a disaster, it's just the thought of it is frightening. I mean, she has no credentials, none, zero. And you talk about being run. But anyway, that's not the point. And here we are getting back into politics. But I found the humor in this, and I thought, now I understand why women in the course of history feel the way they do. And what this particular thing is, and this leads up to the males being the prettier in so many cases, except the human being. But very few in the female species out glamour the male, correct? And I think everybody, that's fact. Now, some women see the ones that bother me because they're angry, won't accept that, or, they won't be able to laugh at that because that's nature, and they're even mad at God for that. So we can't help those people. But anyway, this is kind of fun. Why men are never depressed. Now remember, this is meant to be humorous. I know there's some, what do you mean men are never depressed? And of course today you're supposed to be depressed so that you can deal with your feminine side. Dawn, get back to the humor. Okay. Men are just happier people. What do you expect from such simple creatures? Your last name stays put. The garage is all yours. Wedding plans take care of themselves. Chocolate is just another snack. You can never be pregnant. You can wear a white T-shirt to a water park. You can wear no shirt to a water park. Car mechanics tell you the truth. The world is your urinal. You never have to drive to another gas station restroom because this one is just too icky. You don't have to stop and think of which way to turn a nut on a bolt. Same work, more pay. Wrinkles add character to the male. Wedding dress, $5,000. A tuxedo rental, $100. people never stare at your chest when you're talking to them. New shoes don't cut, blister, or mangle your feet. One mood all the time. Phone conversations are over in 30 seconds flat. You know stuff about tanks. A 5-day vacation requires only one suitcase. You can open all your own jars. If someone forgets to invite you, he or she can still be your friend. Your underwear is $8.95 for a 3-pack. 3 pairs of shoes are more than enough. Everything on your face stays its original color. The same hairstyle lasts for years, even decades. You only have to shave your face and neck. You can play with toys all your life. One wallet and one pair of shoes, one color for all seasons. You can wear shorts no matter how your legs look. You can do your nails with a pocket knife. You have freedom of choice concerning growing a mustache. You can do Christmas shopping for 25 relatives on December 24th in 25 minutes.
Yes.
Well, there's me. Men are just happier people. Nicknames. If Laura, Kate, and Sarah go out for lunch, they will call each other Laura, Kate, and Sarah. If Mike, Dave, and John go out, they will affectionately refer to each other as Fat Boy, Bubba, and Wild Man. Eating out. When the bill arrives, Mike, Dave, and John will each throw in $20. Oh boy, this one hasn't been in the restaurant business. This is, even though it's only for $32.50 the whole check. None of them will have anything smaller, and none will actually admit they want change back. When the girls get their bill, out come the pocket calculators. Yep. Money. A man will pay $2 for a $1 item he needs. A woman will pay $1 for a $2 item that she doesn't need, but it's on sale. Bathrooms. A man has 6 items in his bathroom: toothbrush and toothpaste, shaving cream, razor, a bar of soap, and a towel. The average number of items in the typical woman's bathroom is 337. That is, a man would not be able to identify more than 20 of these items. Arguments. A woman has the last word in any argument. Anything a man says after that is the beginning of a new argument. Future. A woman worries about the future until she gets a husband. A man never worries about the future until he gets a wife. Marriage. A woman marries a man expecting he will change, but he doesn't. A man marries a woman expecting that she won't change, but she does. Dressing up. A woman will dress up to go shopping, water the plants, empty the trash, answer the phone, read a book, and get the mail. A man will dress up for weddings and funerals.
That's true.
Yep. Natural. Men wake up as good looking as when they went to bed.
I don't know about that one.
Well, not many women wake up without hitting the makeup.
No.
I think that's funny, but anyway, I hope you get a kick out of that, ladies and gentlemen, because it's meant, of course, because it rings true about men versus women. It's not meant to put women down, but it is. What do you think about that?
It's all in fun.
It's meant in fun, but it's also so much of the reason things are funny is there's a lot of truth to it.
Some things are true.
Yeah.
Some things are true. I can't say that happens in my household.
Oh, stop trying to avoid any argument when you get home. This is not meant of some women do and some. You know that I don't care if it's Karen or who it is. The tendencies to be this are absolute. Period. Not all of them.
I'm glad you have.
Not all of them. No way.
Okay.
No way. But these are absolutes that have been since man began. Man and women. I think it goes back to Adam and Eve. Remember, as I say, Adam didn't bite the apple, Eve did. So you can say all you want about blaming men, but anyway, that was just meant as a little humor. Now we have another thing that I thought was kind of interesting that I wrote down of why we're in trouble. Here we go back to the realities. These are interesting figures, and again, there's truths. There's some facts, but it's also a little tongue-in-cheek, but hopefully it makes you think. And again, the trouble is there's no answer to it because, as I've said to you before, and I say every week, we've let it get out of hand. We've let it get out of hand. We have let the left, as far as I'm concerned, the left, the spendthrifts, the Democratic Party right now, and the Republicans, unfortunately, instead of confronting them, have joined them. So that's why we're in such trouble. Those of you that listen regularly, I am not a Republican. I vote Republican. I'm more of a libertarian anyway, but I vote against Democrats. I don't care how nice they are. Their whole agenda has brought us into this mess, along with Republicans who have done just the same. They are spendthrifts. They are irresponsible with other people's money. And if you look at who represented us, okay, in so many years, they come from wealth. Many of them never had to ever have a job. To them, we are like the clubs, you know. We are like the servants. They don't care about the impact that taxes have on us, and it's filtered down into some local. But at the presidential, state, and the federal senators and congressmen, too many have come from wealthy families. And the reason this happened, by the way, was the flawed thinking that, oh, they don't need the money, they'll be more honest. That's just not so. Honesty has nothing to do with it. It has to do with never, ever having to pay the price of what it feels like when you can't make your payments or when you have to struggle. When you go to bed like so many couples today wondering where the money's going to come from to pay for your son or daughter's college education. And then you vote for Elizabeth Warren, who makes $360,000, lives in a mansion, and she is down on corporate America. You people that feel that way, you don't even know the hypocrisy there. And I don't care if she's a Democrat or what. I'm talking about hypocrisy in politics. The Bushes, they were no different. The Rockefellers, the Kennedys, I was friendly with them. I loved Jack. That was my president. I love Ted, personally. But, I mean, they never, ever had to worry about a buck. People forget that. I could do a terrific job with your money. I could be the kindest man out there, and so could you. And my problem is I once was very wealthy, and I knew what it was like, and I felt guilty about it because I spent money, I went into investments and all. I had a lot of fun with it. I didn't pay attention. And then, of course, the economy hurt me. But this isn't about me. It's just about the difference between coming from a middle-class America, being brought up where you saw your parents, watching their money and where they had to say no. And, you didn't get a new car when you needed one. And then to see these people sitting in the halls of Congress spending, and letting people come in here illegally to take money away. I don't care how nice the people are. It has nothing to do with that. That's what liberalism has done, in my humble opinion. By dealing with feelings, they've thrown away the need for discipline, for order. If the word illegal is illegal, it means illegal. I don't care if there's little kids that have to be sent back to Brazil or Mexico or Ireland or wherever. But that's not what we have now, and the people who pursue that aren't worried about a buck. They end up with their multi-million-dollar mansions. Bill Clinton, all the money he makes speaking, and he cares about us. But anyway, here's what is kind of an interesting thing about why we're in trouble. And can you hear this, Kenny?
I'm paying attention.
This is kind of humorous. All right. We have 300, actually, I think it's close to 330 million, but we'll call it 300 million people in this country right now. Now, if you're old enough like me and you can subtract in your head pretty good. But even if you can't, take a pen or a pencil and you'll see that these figures, I went through them. So you got 300 million people, we'll round it off. 160 million people are retired. Imagine that live in this country. 160 million.
So there's only 140,000.
So there's 140 million left to do the work.
Wow, no wonder I can't get a raise.
Yeah. Now, of that 140 million left, 85 million are in school. That's how many people we have in schools. I'm talking about kids. Now, remember, we're not talking about adults. We're talking about all the people in this country. That's where the figure comes from. Some people mistake that that's all adult. No, that's children, babies, everything. That's the population. So anyway, if you have 160 million retired and 85 million in school, that leaves you with 55 million left. Imagine. That's all. Starting out with 300, those deductions, those realities, tell you how decimated all that big number is. It comes down to 55 million. 35 million are employed by the government, federal government. 35 million.
Oh, my God.
Now, that leaves 20 million to do all the work. Now, this, of course, I know government workers are paying taxes and they're working, so this is not an insult to government workers, but it means that they are guaranteed they don't have to have a business survive or drop. So now 2.8 million are in the armed forces. So that leaves 17.2 million to do the work. But of that 17.2 million, 15.8 million work for towns, cities, and states. That leaves 1.4 million to work at any time. Now, of that 1.4 million, at any time there are 188,000 people in hospitals. So you subtract 188,000 from the 1.4 million, and that leaves you with 1,212,000 people to do the work. Now, 1,211,998 people are in prisons, which leaves 2 people to do the work, you and me. But those figures, I mean, as I say, there's half-truths in there, and the point, I hope, is taken by you people listening. It is why we're in trouble. We all know there's an imbalance. Like they say, that expression is so true. When you have more people riding on the wagon than there are pulling it, you're not going to get very far for very long. And we are there.
No, you're not.
You know, I was amazed. I'm trying to think of his name. You'll know. Who is he's been on, I don't know, I think it might be, what is it? Anyway, it's a big channel that does a lot of government, but he always interviews famous people. He always wears a jacket and tie, dark hair, nice-looking man. And I knew I'd forget his name. But he's on a regular basis. Not Charles. Anyway, but he was talking with someone in industry, and I could not believe, because then, of course, I'm personally affected, having been in business and having to file bankruptcy like so many others, and seeing so many people I know that have either lost their homes or have had to sell short. And, what is his name? You're not helping me. Don't you watch any of those political... he interviewed, and he's the one too, when someone dies, they usually he's interviewed all the top people of all
maybe somebody out there can help.
Well, nobody calls, so I still wonder what the devil's the matter with the phone calls. But anyway, I apologize, folks, for not having that man's name, and as soon as I think of it, But he said to this higher up in the corporate world, and he said, well, you're telling me that it was okay to I couldn't believe it came out of his mouth, that it's okay to bail out Wall Street, but you can't bail out and didn't bail out Main Street. Isn't that a great line?
I remember hearing that line.
It's all right to bail out Wall Street, but heaven forbid you bail out Main Street. And that's what this elitist government has become, which is bringing us down. It's just like we are right now paying trillions, billions and trillions to foreign countries, many of whom don't like us and oppose us in the United Nations 78 to 80% of the time. We're still giving them money, keeping the State Department all happy, while we have our own citizens. We have our own citizens fretting over whether their kids can go to college. We have elderly people fretting over whether they can afford health care, and yet we can allow and we can give money to people coming in here illegal. And we can have people healthy, intelligent, sitting on their duffs doing nothing, while others who've been working their hearts out can't survive.
Well,
As we speak right now, there are businesses going broke.
it's unfortunate.
Well, it's not. Now, see, now you sound like a liberal. It isn't unfortunate. It is sinful. It's immoral, Kenny.
Okay, my wrong choice of words.
Yeah, all right.
Please don't.
No, I'm not beating you. But it's unfortunate. This is what you get from politicians. Well, gee, that's unfortunate. Whoa, how come it? Now, did you see they're going after a pay raise? Congress.
I heard about it. Yeah. They should work for the wages that you and I have to work for. That's what they should do. They should have to work for the wages
Well,
that you and I have to work for. You get what I'm saying, Donnie? We're retired. They have to work. They should be working like we.
Warren Buffett. Listen to this, folks.
Oh, that's a
The
guy with
Buffett
a ton of
rule.
money.
Yeah, but he calls it like it is. He says, this is what we've got now that's out of control, and he wants this change. He said, if you want to straighten things out, start right at the top. And some states have done it. The salary of retired U.S. presidents is $180,000 for life. Why? Why? They didn't do it for Harry Truman, one of our greatest presidents. Had the most difficult decisions to make.
And he didn't put away a lot of money.
He drove home with his wife in their own car, no Secret Service. Now, I know the world has changed. They had a van, and he went back to a house that he inherited from his wife's mother and father and lived there the rest of his life. By the way, the Presidential Library, the Harry Truman, it's been paid for all by private donations, which every single one of those presidents should have done. We should not be paying 1 red cent as taxpayers. So Bill Clinton's library we paid for, and he's out there making $300,000 or $400,000 speaking.
They said that between him and his wife, they made $25 million
yeah.
last year in speaking.
And she gets away with saying they're broke. They left the White House broke. Now look at this. The salary of the House and Senate members, $174,000 for life. Warren Buffett says, this is stupid. Of course it's stupid. And the only reason it happened is because these people vote their own salaries. And they get reelected.
Donnie, you have 3
Oh, we're almost done.
Not even 3 minutes.
My word. Well, folks, I don't know whether we were all over the place today.
You want to talk about writing to you?
Yes, and you can write to me, drop me a card at Post Office Box 7, South Carver, 02366. And remember on Saturdays to tune in to the radio show, which is from 11 to 1 every Saturday, the 2 fastest hours on radio. And then we are on YouTube, Kenny. You can get this show, just go to YouTube and poke in the Don McKeag TV Show, right? You say TV, Kenny? Oh, it's already on there. Thank you, my boy. Here's one of the things that I did want to make sure I got through before we had Cicero, alive at the time of Julius Caesar, 59 BC. The evil implanted in man by nature spreads so imperceptibly when the habit of wrongdoing is unchecked that he himself can set no limit to his shamelessness. Read the paper and you'll see the shamelessness in our political system now at all levels in some cases. And unfortunately, we're not trying to do anything about it. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks very much for watching. This is Don McKeag signing off. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend coming up. Take care.